Hello, I'm Jake Memory from TechDocs, and today I'm going to be giving a screencast, a demonstration of some software we've developed called the S1000D Workbench, which I believe is probably the quickest and most accurate and efficient way of transferring your legacy data to S1000D data modules. I've got a fair bit of experience in legacy data conversion projects to 1000D, and I have previously invested quite a lot of money in various tools that claim to make that process easier and quicker. In reality, quite often it just isn't the case. It's quite often quicker just to copy the data out of the Word documents and paste into S1000D XML templates. But the product we've developed, I believe, is faster, more efficient and more accurate, assuming the planning's been done correctly, which we'll go over. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to move over things quite quickly because I don't want this to go on for too long. So the legacy data I'm going to be working with today is in this file here. So let's just open. Okay, so this data has come from a genuine aircraft manual. It was a manual that I got from the internet. Now, with it being freely available, there are no security restrictions or any other security issues with using this as demo data. I certainly wouldn't use any of my clients' data, obviously, but as I say, this is readily available online. Now, it's worth pointing out that I had to run OCR software on this, optical character recognition software, because it came down from the internet as a PDF. If your data is already in a Word document, you're already at an advantage, to be honest, because OCR data can come across quite messy. Fortunately, I've had to do very little to this in terms of just tidy it up a little bit, but I tried to do a minimum amount of work purely for the demonstration, so you could see just how easy it is to work with data that's a bit messy anyway. So before we get into the tool, there's a couple of things I need to go over. So let's just switch now to the folder that will be created when you install this add-in. So upon installation of our tool, you will have another folder created in your documents folder called TechDocs, and within here there are 5 subfolders. Most of these you don't need to worry about right now, but let's just have a look at these two, the DMRL and the output. So the output is empty. This is where our data modules will be saved after we've generated them from the Word documents. And the DMRL, this is probably more important right now, is, let's just open this up. So as you'll be aware, part of any successful legacy data to Word conversion program, is planning. Planning is key to a successful and efficient conversion. Part of that planning will be to come up with a data module requirement list, the DMRL. So you will have gone down through your Word documents and you will have assigned a DMC, a tech name and an info name to each section of that Word document. And that's exactly what I've done here. However, what I've done for the sake of time is I've actually removed some of these sections from the Word document now, because I did a quick run through of this screencast a couple of days ago and it was running into sort of towards the half an hour phase stage, so I decided to chop it down a bit. Obviously the process that we go through when we start tagging up the Word document in preparation for generating the data modules is largely the same, so there was no need to be repeating myself over and over again. So some of these you won't see in a minute when we start tagging up the Word document. But what's this data module requirement list for? Well, what we do, we save this off as an XML format once we're done here, once we've got our list together, and that XML version is then used by the Word document for us to choose data modules from, and that will become clear in a moment when we start tagging up the Word document, but we do need to save it as XML. So Worth pointing out as well is this is a let's call it special DMRL. It's been pre-mapped to specific XML elements. So you won't be able to do this with your DMRL. It has to be in this format, and this DMRL does come with the plugin, with the development tool that we've created. So we can close this down now. And as you can see, we now have an XML version here. And the tool will look to this folder and look at this, or look for this XML file as part of the process as we're going through, and that will become clear in a second. So let's go back to the Word document. Again, upon installation, what you'll get is this additional tab up here on the ribbon, Tech Docs tab. If we click on that, we've got 3 buttons down here. Now, these first 2 are grayed out at the moment. These are things we're working on currently, which will effectively enable you to actually author S1000D content in Word and just generate the data modules from the Word document, which may make it a little bit easier for companies that aren't familiar with the XML tagging, or for whatever reason. It's just a byproduct that's come off the back of our Word to 1000D conversion software. But this is the bit we're interested in at the moment. So let's click on this. Okay, so what we've got now is got an action pane that's popped up over on the right hand side here. And the other thing we need to do just to prepare is open this styles pane here. Okay, now in the styles pane you can see we've now got some additional styles. 1000D table titles, legends, figure titles, round list, numbers and lists, steps, para0 titles, etc, etc. We've also got warnings, cautions, notes, and in addition to that, the ignore here, because there will be a fair amount of text that you might want to ignore. I normally find that introductory paragraphs in procedural modules are no longer necessary as we're moving over to 1000D, so I quite often ignore the introductory paragraph of procedural modules. This will be a project decision, obviously. Okay, so how does it work? Well, essentially what we need to do to start with is we need to dictate to the program where the start and the end of our data module containers are. So the first thing we do is highlight the first of our data modules, so it's down to there. And having done that, we can now double click on DM container, and what that's going to do is bring up a representation of our DMRL that we looked at a moment ago. So what this is doing, this is looking at the XML version of that DMRL and is listing all our data module codes and our data modules. So this is standard practices, Titan procedures, okay. So it's a descriptive module, select, and you can see what's happened. The text has been wrapped in these tags. Up here we've got the tech name and info name, and the D at the start just denotes that it's a descriptive module. That will either be a D or a P, D for descriptive and P for procedural. And now what we're going to do, we're just going to work through the text, applying styles as we go through. So, as I say, we won't need this this title because that's given to us in the tech name and info name, so we can just ignore that. So this will be a para0 title. That's just para text. This can just be ran list, note, para0 title, para text, ran list. They're both, both para text. Ran list. Standard talk values. Let's have a para0 title. Now these are the table titles. Okay, now one of the benefits of this program is that you don't need to worry about tables. The program will automatically take care of the tables. Every table it sees, it will convert to the Oasis CALS format, which is the format dictated by S1000D, and it will populate and tag it appropriately. when it brings it across, when it does the conversion, so we don't need to worry about that, which can be a huge time saver if you have some big tables. Let's just come down through here. And paratext. Okay, so that's the first one tagged up. Okay, let's save as we go. Okay, and as you can see, it's starting to look a little bit more like a formatted S1000D PDF document already. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Placards and markings. Double-click container. Interior placards and markings. Another descriptive module. Select. As you can see, it's wrapped the same as the last one. So let's just run down through here. Again, we're going to ignore that. We're not interested in that. That will be a para 0 title, as will that. That's just para text. Now you can see here we've got a reference to figure 1. Now we can obviously leave this until it's converted across, and it will just bring across that figure 1 text in the paragraph. Or we can actually tag it here. So as an example, I will show we can do a figure xref from here. If we double click the figure xref. Now there's no item number, it's just a reference to figure 1, so figure number 1, OK, and that wraps that nicely for us, and again that will bring across the correct tagging for the xref when it brings it across into XML. I'm not going to go down and do all of these, this is just an example. So again, paratext, and here. Now again, figures we don't need to worry about. The tool, the S1000D Workbench tool, will take care of these figures. It will save these figures out of the Word document into the same folder as the data modules are generated. It will assign them an ICN. That ICN will be the name of the data module that we've assigned, plus be appended with an underscore figure 1 or figure 2 or figure 3. So we don't need to worry about those. Obviously, we probably won't be using the JPEGs. Almost certainly, you'll be getting the graphics converted to a CGM format, but it makes the process a little bit easier if they're all contained in the same folder and assigned an ICN, etc., etc. And it will also tag up the XML with the right number and everything as well, so you can tie it all together at the end. Figure title. Figure title. Figure title. Okay, and on to the next. Instrument panels, description. Okay, DM container. Another descriptive module. We do have a couple of procedurals towards the end here. Ignore, para 0. Text, that's around list, text, para 0 title. It's difficult for me to apply styles and talk at the same time. I wasn't gifted with the art of multitasking, unfortunately. All that's paratext. Again, we don't worry about the figure. Although I have just noticed there's no title, so I'll just give that a title of Center Console for now, and just apply the figure title. Now, if we hadn't assigned a figure title, it wouldn't have mattered. It just would have meant we've had an empty set of title tags when it came across. No biggie. But I just thought it was it's easier to do it now. Okay, and on to the next one. And we're going to do exactly the same thing again. So we're going to highlight this as the data module. DM container. Now this was electrical power, I do believe. Another descriptive module. Okay. Again, we can ignore that first, the title, because obviously that will come from our tech name and info name. That will be a subpara 0. This will go with a subpara 1. Paratext, subpara 1. And list. Again, just excuse me going quiet as I run down through this. You can see what I'm doing though. Just applying styles as we run down through. Oops, let's capture all of that. And list. You can see how quickly this gets tagged up as we run through. It's really not a laborious process in comparison to many tools out there. Table title. Again, the table we don't need to worry about. Para 1 and paratext. Perfect. Okay, next. Now, this one is a procedural. We've got a couple of procedurals to go now, so that's quite a short procedural. So let's go with that. DM container. This is rudder operational test, I do believe, procedural. Okay, so we can ignore that as before. And again, I think we can ignore this. This is what I was talking about, referring to the descriptive text at the start of a procedural module. I don't think that's particularly necessary, but again, that's entirely up to the project. Warning, warning. We can ignore that. We can ignore that. We can ignore this. Let's just turn off the, make things a little bit clearer. Apologies for that. Okay, so we have some support equipment in this one. So the way we do that is we highlight the entire piece of support equipment, including the quantity and the part number. We double-click support equipment item. That wraps the whole thing. We can then select the name, and then right-click on support equipment item, choose nomenclature. Again, on the quantity, select quantity, and on the part number, in this case it's commercial, so there is no part number. We select part number, and the same again for this one. Quantity and part number. Okay, that's tagged up. So let's run through this with some steps. So that's a step 1. Step 2. Step 2. Warning. Step 2. That's step 2, step 2, step 2. They're all step 2s, so you can do them in one go. Okay, that's fine. And on to the next. Engine cowling. Okay, it's just this one and then one more to go. Okay, it's just this one and one more to go. Container. This is engine cowling, procedural module. Again, we can ignore that. I'm going to go with the fact we can ignore all of that. Actually, that's not really relevant to this procedure in S1000D. I'm going to make that a note. These two are warnings. Make sure the engine is safe, step 1. have step 2s for those. Step 1. Excuse me, I made a mistake. Actually, that should have been a step 1 there, and these should be step 2s. I thought I'd gone wrong somewhere there, something didn't seem right, and these will be step 3s. Step 2, step 2, step 1, step 2, step 3s, step 1, step 2. These are actually random lists. Step 2, step 3s, and we're done there. Okay, last one. So this last one isn't aircraft related specifically, but I did put it in here just to demonstrate the figure legends and how they work. So let's go straight on with this one. Highlight that as before. DM container, blade center computer, descriptive module. We can double click this or select. Okay, again we can ignore para0 title, para text. This will be a numbered list. Para text. Graphic we don't worry about. Now, to demonstrate the legend, I'll put back on the paragraph marks, because this way the tabs show up. So the first thing we need to do is obviously tell it that it's an S1000D legend. Perfect. Now the way this works, obviously, when it comes across into XML, there are several different elements that make up the legend. You have item numbers, which I think are defs, and you have a def list, if I recall correctly. But either way, there are several elements that make up the legend, and the way it delimits in here to know which part of this this item and the number to put in which element, it uses a tab. Okay, so we don't want any tabs prior to the numbers. So all we do is just remove this leading tab here. So that gives us one tab space in between the item number and the item description, and that will automatically tag up the legend in S1000D for us. Again, you'll see that in a minute. So that is a figure title. Let's run down through here. Figure title. So para 1 title. All of this is para text. Just standard paragraph text, obviously. Table title. Don't have to worry about the table. So para 1. Para text. Now again, we've got a C figure 5 here. We've had a few of these throughout, but again, I'll tag this one up. Figure reference, xref. So in actual fact, what you need to remember is this is figure 5 in this document, but that will actually be figure 1 or figure 2 possibly in XML when it comes across, because it will be its own individual data module. Let's just cancel that and have a quick look to see what that is. See, figure 5. So it's actually going to be figure 2 in our data module, because that will be figure 1. No, my mistake. That will be figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. No item numbers. Okay. Again, all of this is paratext. Already done that. Don't need to worry about the figure. And we're going to tell it that's an S1000D legend. And again, just remove the leading tabs so that it tags up properly for us. And that is a figure title. Okay, so we have the document tagged up now. So what's next? Well, firstly I'm going to save it. Okay, so we could shut this down and reopen it at any point now, and that would all be saved. But we want to go ahead and build our data modules. So the next phase would be for us to click the validate and build button here. Now, the first thing it's going to do when we do that is it's going to run through a series of validation checks against our Word document. That's because as the text is brought across into XML, into the 1000D template, it has to conform to the S1000D schema. And what that means is if we've got anything, any paragraphs out of context in accordance with S1000D rules, when it comes across into our XML and we open it up in an XML editor, it is not going to be valid. And we want to try to reduce any errors in terms of the nesting of elements when it comes across. So it runs through a pre-validation check effectively. So it's going to be looking at every single paragraph line by line and looking at the previous paragraph and the paragraph afterwards, and effectively rubbing that up against some rules that are built into the program to decide if that paragraph, the context of that paragraph is valid where it is. So as an example, we know, for example, that we can't have in S1000D a note followed by a warning followed by a caution. It has to be warning, caution, note in that order when pertaining to a specific step. And also, in procedural modules, we can't have, you can't start off with a step 2 here and then have a step 1. It has to be, 1s, 2s, 3s, etc., etc. So, in fact, what I might do, I might introduce an error just to show you an example. Let's do that rather than just having everything pass. So let's do what we just said. So let's make that a note, even though we know it's supposed to be a warning. And let's say, so we've got a step 2 here. Let's make that a step 5, which should confuse it sufficiently. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the validation and see what it tells us. Okay, so it's told us the validation failed as we expected. See validation window for details. So it has highlighted the warning in question. Well, in fact, it's highlighted the next warning because it's comparing the warning that we changed to a note. It's comparing the paragraph afterwards to it, and it's telling us the warning is out of context. Warnings cannot follow notes or cautions. Please move the warning. So, of course, if this was a genuine situation where this was a note, we would just put the warning above the note, and that would sort that issue out. So let's click OK. We'll correct this error that we introduced, and we'll run it again, and it should pick the next one up now. Okay, so cannot have a step 3 after a step 5, not S1000D compliant. So it has recognized the fact that our step 5 is in the wrong place. So let's change that back to a step 2 as it should be. No, my mistake, that should have been a step 3. That's right, sorry, bit confused there for a second. Okay, so now that's corrected, we should be good to go. And we'll build the modules this time. So we'll OK that. And we can run this as many times as we like, so if we're getting errors, we can continually validate and correct and validate and correct and save it. Let's go ahead and build our modules. Okay, Word document validation successful. Click OK to build S1000D XML DMs. Now again, let's just have a quick look at our output folder. Nothing in there. Okay. So again, the table, the validation window runs through various processes, and it's giving us a line-by-line account of what's happening. So just back to the top, so it's starting the S1000D data module generation. It's building this data module code, this tech name and info name. It tells us converting xrefs and dmrefs for this data module. Creates random lists, adding notes, random lists, converting word tables to CALS formats. It's writing the XML to the S1000D template. Now, just a word on that. The S1000D template is this here. It's the Airbus A400M template. The output schema we're using here is S1000D 2.3.1. Now we are attempting to build some other templates into the program, so you have more flexibility on your output. For example, shipdex, and we've had some inquiries regarding generic S1000D 1.8, which of course is SGML, not XML. But for the purposes of this demonstration, and the tool was actually developed based on Airbus A400M templates. So let's see what we've got in the output folder now. And there we have it. There are our data modules. So it starts off with the 042, and our graphics have also been assigned the same data module code, but with a figure 1, figure 2, figure 3 appended. 711 again, 042, 042 graphics. So it appears to have given us all the modules that we wanted. So let's open them up in turn and see what we've got. Now the editor that I'm using is Arbortext, which is pretty much industry standard in aerospace. But of course you can open them in any XML editor. And as you can see, everything's been populated as it should be. So we've got our data module, all our ID section here, ID status section has all been populated with tech name, info name, DMC. We have some text that's already in here. This has come from the templates that we built, that we applied all of the text to. So again, if you have specific project templates that you need, we can preset those up. And all of the text here has been brought across into XML, and the data module is valid. If we click the green tick, it will tell us. Well, actually, I said it's telling us that it's got no errors. It's got some completeness errors due to the graphics. But obviously, as we're aware, we would normally get CGMs created, and you wouldn't get that. But if there were any issues with the actual context of these elements, it would have told us when we opened the data module. So in actual fact, it is valid in terms of the nesting of the elements. All of our figures and figure titles have been added properly. Let's open the next one. We'll just run down through these fairly quickly and make sure they're all valid. Again, here we go, notes. Now here's our random list. So any additional items that would have normally given us empty items have all been removed. Tables have all been converted perfectly to the CALS format and all displaying nicely. Let's close that one down. The next one. Okay, and again that all looks good. Lots of subpara 2s. Again, a table. Next. Okay, looking good. Let's have a look at this. So this is a procedural. So as you can see, our support equipment has been brought across perfectly and tagged up as you'd expect, or as what S1000D would expect. There were no consumables, no spares. We've got some safety conditions, the warnings, and rudder control test procedure. So this is all tagged up beautifully, no problems. Next. Now, this is a good example. This was the last one that we did in the Word document. So this was this one here. Now, the reason we included this was to demonstrate how the legends worked. Sorry, not that. This. That was a numbered list. The legends worked, and we said we just needed to have a tab delimiter here. And the way that's come across for us is like this. So it's actually given us the terms and the def. It separated those in accordance according to where the tab was in the Word document. So it does that hard work for us. Again, the cows table's been built, table titles added, figure titles added, and another legend. And finally, the 920. And again, no parsing errors. We've got some safety conditions here. A note, removing the engine top cowling. Here are our step 3s. A random list. And again, no issues. So, as you can see, this is, certainly in my experience, the easiest way of getting your data from Word documents into an S1000D format with minimal cleanup at the end. Minimal, where there are no empty paragraphs, no large spaces, no nastiness, no correction of context. That's because much of the validation, the checks that need to be done are done at the Word stage, so it's brought across in a fairly clean way. I will leave my contact details on the screen, and if you would like us to do a demonstration on some of your data, we would be more than happy to do that. What is also worth mentioning is, I think I said right at the start that in my experience I have previously with various companies invested quite a lot of money in programs that claim to do this. Now, those programs can run into tens of thousands of pounds. This doesn't. This is only a few thousand. So in the scheme of things, and in terms of what it can save you, this is definitely the most cost-effective tool available. So I look forward to hearing from you, and please don't hesitate to fire any questions over. There will be some details on the screen now. Thanks very much.